She was the most beautiful and expensive prostitute in town, with countless men holding love tokens waiting for their 10 minutes of passion with her every day. But on this day, a young man paid double the price to cut in line, just to have a face-to-face conversation with Angel. At first, Angel thought he wanted to play a game of hard to get, so she obediently put on her clothes. Then she relaxed and lay on the soft bed. However, the man still didn't make a move. Instead, he said with pure joy, "I didn't come here to have a relationship with you, but to ask you to marry me. I promise to give you a good life." But Angel had heard such sweet words too many times, so she didn't take it to heart at all. Just then, the time was up, and Angel showed the man out of the room. Unexpectedly, the next day, the man came again, paying double the price, and once again only asked Angel to marry him. Although she still doubted he would marry a prostitute, Angel's attitude was no longer as cold as before. When she saw him off, she even happily said a few words. But by the third time, Angel's attitude became even worse because she realized the man seemed to really want to marry her, and she absolutely wouldn't allow herself to fall into such a gentle trap. So, to completely dispel his thoughts, Angel said coldly and disdainfully, "I have no feelings for you at all. You're just a powerless, low-class person. What future could I have with you?" Hearing these harsh words, Mike felt his sincere heart was trampled on. Heartbroken, he turned and left. Watching Mike's figure gradually fade away through the window, a ripple stirred in Angel's heart. It turned out she didn't really look down on Mike, but her rough and rocky life from birth made her afraid to easily trust any man. At 13, Angel, an illegitimate child, and her mother were ruthlessly kicked out of their home. Having lost their financial support, her mother intended to sell her jewelry for money, only to be told that the jewelry was cheap glass, not real diamonds or agate. Her mother never expected that after all those years of marriage, not only was the love fake, but even the gifts were fake. Yet she had no right to argue and could only silently swallow this bitter pill. Later, to earn money and support Angel, her mother, who knew nothing else, had to turn to the flesh trade. However, the rope always breaks at its thinnest point, and misfortune always finds the unfortunate. Not long after, Angel's mother passed away from illness, and the helpless Angel was sold by traffickers to a duke with a penchant for pedophilia. After being taken in by the duke and growing up, he was forced to work at a farm entertaining guests, and his first client turned out to be his biological father. Faced with his father who didn't recognize him, Angel chose not to reveal his identity, because he wanted this demon to bear the shame of incest. Unexpectedly, after learning the truth, his father couldn't bear the pain and chose to commit suicide. From then on, Angel became a cold-blooded tool driven by fate. Until one day, with the help of a kind sister, he escaped the suffocating cage and boarded a ship heading west. On the ship, he was roped in by 2 other women and did several deals with men. After disembarking, the 2 greedy women beat him up and stole the money that rightfully belonged to him. Angel once thought that after escaping the Duke's clutches, he would regain freedom and a new life. Unexpectedly, fate wouldn't let him go, and he ended up being taken in by a brothel, once again becoming a plaything trapped in a cage. In contrast, Mike always lived a carefree life. Initially, he was the wealthy son of a landlord. But because he couldn't stand his father's enslavement of servants, he chose to leave home. After years of hard work, he saved up enough to buy a farm. In an era when everyone was eager to strike it rich overnight through gold mining, he took one step at a time, living his life steadily and earnestly. His only regret was not having a loved one to watch the sunrise and sunset, the flowers bloom and wither with him. Therefore, he started going to church every day to pray, hoping for a good match. Perhaps heaven truly felt his sincerity, for on this day, while delivering goods to the city, he happened to meet Angel, who rarely went out. With just one glance, Mike was certain that this was the person he wanted to spend his life with. Despite friends warning him that a man from a brothel wasn't suitable to marry, he didn't care at all and even bought Angel's time the next day for double the price. However, after experiencing so many hardships, Angel no longer trusted any man. But after Mike's reminder, she realized she shouldn't stay in the brothel any longer. So, she immediately found the brothel manager, prepared to settle accounts, and demanded back the hard-earned money she had made over the years. Then he went to live a free life, but as it turned out, he was too naive. Once he entered the world, his money was no longer his, and even his life was no longer his own. Old Bao wasn't going to let this cash cow go easily. As a result, Angel not only didn't get a penny back, but was dragged into a room and given a harsh lesson. In fact, in this so-called paradise, Angel had been beaten countless times. But each time, he would quickly admit his mistakes and apologize, so he was never seriously hurt. But this time, he seemed to have gone mad, constantly provoking the thugs, which led to him being nearly beaten to death. Meanwhile, Mike, as if telepathically connected, sensed Angel's pain in his sleep. So, he got up and rushed back to the town overnight. Seeing Angel barely alive on the bed, he immediately used all his savings to help his uncle. Since Angel couldn't entertain guests for a long time afterward, Old Bao readily agreed. After Old Bao left, Mike couldn't help but ask Angel again, "Will you marry me?" This time, Angel said yes. So, Mike took Angel back to the farm. They thought they would live happily ever after, but when Angel woke up, she not only took off the ring Mike had put on her finger but also said, "I won't stay here long because I don't want to be a slave to marriage, I don't want to wash your clothes and cook for you for free, and I certainly don't want to sleep with you for free." When Mike took the ring back, he placed it in front of Angel again and said, "Marriage is not slavery, I didn't marry you to have you serve me, but because I like you." Despite his sincere words, Angel still refused to believe him. In the blink of an eye, 3 weeks passed, and Angel fully recovered. That day, after seeing Mike leave, he immediately changed clothes and fled the place. When Mike found out, he quickly rode after him. Since Angel was on foot, Mike soon caught up with him. Angel thought he was going to be taken back, so he angrily slapped him and said, "I'm not your property, I can go wherever I want, you have no right or authority to restrain me." Unexpectedly, Mike just wanted to give him water and clothes. After all, the temperature in the mountains drops at night, and the farm is 20 miles from town. Without water to quench his thirst and clothes to keep warm, Angel, who had just recovered from a serious illness, could very well die on the road. Actually, if Mike really wanted to let Angel go, he could have sent her back to the city. But Mike neither wanted her to go back nor wanted to force her to stay. So, he gave her two choices. Walk 19 miles forward, and you can return to the town where the brothel and the old fort await you. Walk 1 mile back, and you can return home, where there's fire, food, and your husband. 2 paths, you choose freely. After saying this, he left the horse farm. That night, the travel-weary Angel returned to the farm. Mike, strong and silent, said nothing, just served the food that had been kept warm. Then, he brought a basin of warm water and knelt down to wash Angel's feet. Angel, who had never been cared for and connected with like this, suddenly felt a surge of complex emotions. He wanted to believe that this gentle man in front of him truly had no ulterior motives beyond affection. But his past experiences constantly reminded him that men have no love for women, only manipulation. The tenderness and sweet words they show are just bait for the hunt. Once the hunt is successful, their true nature is revealed. Thinking of this, Angel's heart, which had just started to ripple, calmed down again. Then he posed seductively, offering himself as prey to the hunter. But what he never expected was that Mike turned out to be a true gentleman. The next day, with nothing to do, Angel decided to repay Mike's kindness through labor. Although Mike didn't want their relationship to turn into an employment one, he indulgently agreed. And so, in the days that followed, the two began a simple farm life. In the morning, they gathered in the shed to collect eggs. In the morning, they weeded the vegetables together. At noon, they chopped wood and cooked together. In the afternoon, they went fishing by the river. At night, Angel still desperately tried to seduce Mike, who could only pretend to walk the dog to the river to cool off. One night, Angel suddenly woke up from a nightmare. Mike didn't want him to be tormented by nightmares anymore, so he took him to the top of the mountain. As the first ray of morning sunlight broke through the darkness, Mike firmly said to Angel, "Although I don't know what kind of suffering you've endured before, I want to give you a bright and colorful life from now on. I don't want you to be hurt again, and I certainly don't want you to be burdened by the past forever, because you deserve a better life." If Angel's heart was a dark valley, then Mike was the sunlight that split open his dark soul. After this day, Angel finally opened his heart. Michael accepted this relationship, and he had been waiting for this moment to come. Previously, he always refused Angel's proposals because he didn't want to taint their relationship. In his view, marriage should only be between two people who truly love each other. Otherwise, it's no different from animals that only mate. Now, they have finally confirmed each other's feelings, and naturally, everything fell into place. Angel, who had done this countless times, tasted joy for the first time. However, just as their happy days were about to begin, they were abruptly interrupted by an unexpected guest. A year ago, Michael's sister, who had been living with him on the farm, passed away due to illness. Unable to bear the pain of losing his wife, her husband Paul left the farm afterward. But due to the difficulties of surviving outside, he had no choice but to return in disgrace. Initially, when he heard the news that Michael had married, he was surprised but mostly happy for him. However, the moment he saw Angel, he instantly recognized her as the most expensive prostitute in town and assumed that Angel must have deceived Michael. Otherwise, two people so different could not have met, let alone married. To prevent this ill-fated relationship from continuing, Paul took the opportunity when Michael was out to warn Angel, saying that a filthy woman like her was not worthy of the pure and kind Michael. If you have any conscience left, you should leave him immediately and not ruin the rest of his life. After saying this, he poured all the hot tea from his cup into Angel's. This was a provocation, and even more so, an insult. But even so, he felt it wasn't enough, so he went to Michael and bluntly reminded him that, having lived in seclusion for so long, he might not know that Angel was a woman who had been with countless men. If people found out you married her, you would be ridiculed and shamed. In fact, from the first time Paul and Angel met, Michael had already read something from their subtle expressions. Originally, as long as no one exposed the truth, life could continue peacefully. But now, Paul not only revealed the truth but also insulted Angel in front of Michael. This was something Michael could not tolerate, so he punched Paul in the face and said, "For my sister's sake, as long as you don't insult Angel again, we can still be family. I know you need supplies now, so I'll give you money and a carriage. Tomorrow, go to town and stop by the church to confess." Finally, after persuading Paul, Mike went to comfort the injured angel again, saying, "Your past doesn't matter to me at all. From now on, I just want to be with you, start a family, and have a pair of children." Little did he know, these words only strengthened Angel's resolve to leave. It turned out that when she was with the Duke, Angel accidentally got pregnant and was forced to have an abortion, losing her chance to be a mother. She realized she couldn't give Mike the life he wanted. So, early the next morning, she left the farm with Paul, who was heading into town. Unexpectedly, during a rest stop, Paul made advances on her. Angel, wanting to make herself feel even more unworthy, decided to sever any thoughts of returning to Mike. Thus, with their own motives, the two engaged in a sordid act in the wilderness. However, as they were about to reach the town, Paul, concerned about his reputation, kicked Angel off the carriage because he didn't want to be seen with a prostitute. Seeing through his intentions, Angel mocked him as she got off the carriage, saying, "I may not be a good person, but I never pretend to be something I'm not. You, on the other hand, enjoy the material things Mike provides while sleeping with the woman he loves, yet still want to act like a gentleman. You're truly hypocritical to the extreme." After saying this, she turned and left without looking back. Originally, Angel returned to the town to reclaim what was hers from the madam. But she found that the once thriving place had become a ruin. Just over a month ago, someone set it on fire, killing the madam and two prostitutes who couldn't escape in time. With nowhere to go and penniless, Angel ended up working for another pimp. After hearing about this from Paul, Mike immediately found Angel and forcibly took her out of the establishment. Even though he understood Angel's difficulties and could empathize with her sudden departure, the usually strong Mike couldn't help but cry bitterly in the middle of the night. He truly didn't know what to do. He loved Angel deeply and wanted to save her, but he felt powerless. Seeing Mike heartbroken, Angel suddenly felt very dirty herself. So, she jumped into the river and washed herself all night. When Mike found her, she had scrubbed her skin raw. Angel said, "My heart is full of demons. I don't know how to drive them away, nor do I know how to love someone." Mike then shared his own experiences with her. Although it's indeed difficult to completely abandon the past, with determination and perseverance, success is certain. After this deep conversation, both of them let go of their inner grudges and returned to a peaceful life of farming and weaving. Until one day, they happened to meet a family of 4 whose carriage broke down on the road. Since there was a pregnant woman about to give birth, Mike and Angel decided to temporarily take them in for a few days. Later, the baby was born. The previously wandering family decided to settle on this farm. Mike was overjoyed to hear this. Because he really loves children. Whenever he's not busy, he holds the baby and doesn't want to let go. Witnessing this, Angel candidly confessed that she had been pregnant before and could no longer have children. Although initially stunned by this news, Mike quickly said, "No matter what, I love you, and nothing is impossible." But the more gentle and considerate he was, the more guilty Angel felt. So that evening, Angel not only prepared a sumptuous dinner but also took Mike to the mountaintop where they first watched the sunrise together. The golden sunset cast its glow on their handsome faces. Suddenly, Angel straddled Mike, and under the witness of heaven and earth, they made their declaration of love. However, the next morning, Angel left Mike's life again, leaving behind a ring and a letter. This time, Mike didn't choose to search for her because he understood that Angel needed to complete her own journey. Otherwise, even if she stayed, she wouldn't truly be happy. Little did he know, Angel, alone outside, was having a harder time than he imagined. Initially, when she first arrived in New York from Boston, she found a job as a cook with room and board, thanks to her experience on the farm. Although she was busy every day, barely having time to rest, life was relatively peaceful and stable. But then, a sudden fire burned down the cafe where she worked. What seemed like an accident turned out to be the deranged Duke tracking her down. It turned out that ever since learning of Angel's escape, the Duke not only killed the woman who helped her escape but also never stopped searching for her whereabouts. Now, seeing her forced into prostitution, the Duke's previous anger vanished, and he was instead overjoyed. In the past, he was full of interest. Soon, Angel was taken back to the brothel. Here, life is bustling. Everyone is living in a drunken stupor, only wanting to enjoy the present, not caring about tomorrow. Since she was to be sold that night, Angel was first pushed into the bedroom. Unexpectedly, as soon as she stepped into the room, she saw an 8 or 9-year-old girl. Instantly, nightmare-like memories flooded her mind, causing her to painfully collapse to the ground. But when she was all made up and about to be sent to the stage, she suddenly thought of her mother and Mike. He clearly remembered that his mother was also a devout Christian before she passed, always wearing a cross around her neck. At that time, young Angel believed that as long as she prayed sincerely, God would surely help them through the hard times. So, when her mother fell ill, she prayed to God for help without stopping. But in the end, her mother still passed away. From then on, Angel no longer believed in God. It wasn't until she met Mike by chance that she began to reconsider the meaning of God's existence. God is not Doraemon, who can directly fulfill your wishes. But he can guide you, give you courage, and make you dare to face and even overcome difficulties. Just like Angel at this moment, even though she was like fish on a chopping board, she was determined to use her last bit of strength to fight for a chance at life for herself and the girls suffering. He calmly looked at the beasts below the stage who wanted to devour him. Then he said peacefully, "The Duke likes little girls. Right now, there are 2 locked upstairs." Even in those times when poverty was mocked but not prostitution, kidnapping was still a crime that everyone condemned. Unfortunately, Angel had no evidence, and just a few words couldn't shake the Duke's power. Soon, the patrons below were calmed down and returned to their eating, drinking, and merrymaking. Angel was then dragged upstairs by the furious Duke. Before going on stage, the Duke had warned Angel not to play any tricks, or death would be his fate. Angel thought he would surely die this time, but just as the Duke was about to shoot, a tall black man stopped him. It turned out the black man was also in the audience earlier, and he believed Angel couldn't be lying. So, he quietly followed upstairs. The rescued Angel didn't have time to thank him and hurriedly ran next door, opening the door because he wanted to take the 2 girls with him. However, just at that moment, the Duke's large hand reached out. In a moment of desperation, Angel grabbed an iron rod to hold it in place. Then he pulled the girls and ran downstairs, rushing into the night and disappearing. When they saw there really were young girls, the playboys suddenly turned into judges, hanging the unforgivable Duke at the door. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed. Paul, who was on a business trip to Alcohol Mountain, saw a familiar figure from afar, but before he could see clearly, the person walked into a shelter. To confirm if it was him, Paul followed inside. Sure enough, Angel was there. Now, having completely regained his freedom, he was receiving free education at the shelter while working at a restaurant to earn money. Although life wasn't wealthy, he was content. Paul, on the other hand, had remarried and was soon expecting a new addition to the family. After not seeing each other for years, they exchanged a few pleasantries. Then, Paul suddenly said emotionally, 3 years ago, your mockery of me in the town made me realize my mistakes. At that time, I really wanted to apologize to you, but I never had the courage. Although it's too late now, I still hope you can forgive me. After hearing this, Angel suddenly felt as if a lifetime had passed. It seemed like the time in the town was over a century ago. They say even the deepest love and hate will fade away in the river of time. Angel felt this was true. Because here, facing Paul, who had insulted him, he felt no waves in his heart, let alone forgiveness or unforgiveness. But to make the other person feel better, he still replied, I forgave you long ago. However, when Paul mentioned Mike, a trace of panic suddenly flashed across his previously calm face. Not noticing this anomaly, Paul continued, since you left, Mike has been living alone. Although he doesn't say it, we all know his love for you has never stopped. He's been waiting for you to come home every moment. Hearing this, Angel's panic turned into pain. At first, he thought he would hear that Mike had married and had children, but unexpectedly, Mike, like him, had never let go of their feelings. But the reason Angel chose to leave years ago was to make Mike forget him, then find a pure and kind woman to have some lovely children. If the goal wasn't achieved, then what was the point of his sudden departure, other than making Mike sad? In an instant, Angel felt as if her heart was twisted, bleeding profusely. Under the sunset's glow, the endless green was also tinged with a layer of golden yellow, and Mike, bathed in the same golden light, was driving the horse, carrying the plow, and diligently working the seed-laden yellow earth. Suddenly, as if hearing a call, he turned his head. Angel, holding an umbrella, stood not far away. Then, she put down the umbrella, lifted her skirt, and walked steadily towards Mike. Choking up, she said, My real name is Sarah. After my mother passed away, I never told anyone because it's the only thing I have that no one can take from me. But now, I'm willing to give my true self completely to you, simply because I love you so much. Faced with Angel's heartfelt confession, Mike could no longer suppress his inner impulse. He took off the ring from his pinky finger and proposed to Angel once again. And Angel not only gladly accepted but also promised that as long as she lived, she would never take off the ring again. Another year of good times. Sarah, who was once told she couldn't have children, not only has a son now but is also expecting another child. Indeed, just as Mike once said, in life, anything is possible. Who can love me like this? Directed by Diga Caruso, starring Abigail F. Cowan and Tom Reeves, this romance film was released in 2020. The film is adapted from the novel of the same name by Francine Rivers. Angel, forced into a life of hardship, develops an unprecedented desire to defy fate after meeting Mike, who loves her selflessly like a saint. With Mike's help, she indeed escaped hell and lived a peaceful, loving life with him. But the dark past, like a nightmare, refused to let Angel go. Angel didn't want her tainted self to ruin Mike, who deserved a bright future. So, she resolutely chose to leave. Fortunately, in the end, she managed to sever the source of her nightmares and return to Mike as a new but genuine self. Many people think that a man like Mike couldn't possibly exist in this world. In fact, rather than saying Mike is a person, it's better to say he's a messenger of God. His appearance is meant to guide and help Angel break free from the shackles of fate and rediscover her true self. And Angel, too, in the repeated guidance of kindness, gradually realizes that only self-reliance can lead to rebirth. Perhaps others can offer you advice and guide you when you're in trouble, but they can never save you from dire straits. After all, a master can lead you to the door, but cultivation is personal. If you don't face the fire yourself, how can you expect to be reborn? Standing on the banks of the river of time, looking back from the legend of filling the sea to the epic of you the great controlling the floods. Every leap in human civilization tells the true meaning of self-rescue, when the digital flood reshapes traditional life. When technological revolutions reconstruct social order, we need this courage for self-redemption more than ever. Only by becoming the architect of our own destiny can we build a lighthouse in the tides of the times. Alright, that's all for today's movie sharing. Feel free to like, comment, and share. Looking forward to our next meeting.